Heya, in this video I'm going to explain why Kyogre was such a large menace to VGC and why it still can be. For those of you who don't know, I'm PinkBears07 and I make unique teams and find niches that challenge the VGC meta. First we are going to cover Kyogre's history and why I think it is revered as one of the strongest Pokemon and why I think it is being misused currently. Starting with taking a look at the Pokemon itself, Kyogre is the cover legendary of Pokemon Sapphire, which came out in 2002 for Japan and 2003 for the rest of the world. This is the generation that introduced weather as its gimmick, with the first four being rain, sun, hail, and sandstorm, and snow being introduced in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, replacing hail in the Holy Quartet. But this came with the introduction of weather-based abilities like Drought, Sandstream, and Drizzle. The one that we're going to be focusing on right now is Drizzle, which is Kyogre's ability. This sets up rain as soon as Kyogre hits the field, which boosts water-type damage by 50%, drops fire-type damage by 50%, and activates abilities like Swift Swim and Rain Dish. Kyogre is also rocking an impressive line in its base stats at 100 HP and attack, 90 defense and speed, 140 special defense, and 150 special attack. Essentially meaning that Kyogre is a mid-speed, bulky special attacker. It can dish out hits as good as it can take them. It also has a phenomenal move pool with moves like Blizzard, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Thunder, Icy Wind, Muddy Water, Calm Mind, and Mud Slap was a little useful during the Dynamax era. But overall, it is a phenomenal Pokemon with stats and an ability to back up its amazing move pool and solo typing of water, resisting fire, water, ice, and steel, and being super effective against fire, ground, and rock, but being neutral against most things. Only being weak to grass and electric is also a great thing because that's only 2 weaknesses, which is like at least 1 less than 7. Almost nothing can take down this big fat mammal. Now that we know what Kyogre fully is and how it was and still is being used, we are going to take a look at Kyogre's history going all the way back to 2010, the first world championship that we have a full record of on VGCpedia. Kyogre is in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place, taken by Wataru Unishi, Isao Yoshioka, Yasuki Taguchi, and the GOAT Ray Rizzo in 1st place. This was also the year that Parasect got 5th, and it was an Amoonguss that benefited from the rain due to dry skin. But back on topic, the team that won was Kyogre, Groudon, Dialga, Ludicolo, Hariyama, and Cresselia. Ray was running a split weather room team, with Groudon for sun and Kyogre for rain, paired with Dialga for when Trick Room was up. There was also Hariyama for some nice fighting type stab physical damage, Ludicolo for support in the rain, and Cresselia for setting up Trick Room. Now this was powerful because just as Kyogre had Drizzle, Groudon had Drought, which sets up the sun, meaning Ray had complete control over the weather, with Hariyama being there as a counter to the other weather setters of sand and hail like Tyranitar and Abomasnow. Yasuki's team was a committed rain team with a speed forward view and a sandstorm Tyranitar, replacing Groudon with Palkia, Dialga with Lugia, Hariyama with Tyranitar, and Cresselia with Infernape as a fast fire type attacker who would benefit from the sun or even scare opponents from bringing their Groudons. Fast forwarding to 2016 with the introduction of Mega Evolutions, we were also introduced to Primal Kyogre, which gave it a massive stat boost and a new ability called Primordial Sea. Now Primordial Sea summons Heavy Rain, which is different from regular rain. You would still get your 50% boost to water type attacks, but you would also get the added bonuses of fire type moves failing and weather abilities and moves also failing, except for the abilities of Desolate Land and Delta Stream, which belong to Primal Kyogre and Mega Rayquaza respectively. Desolate Land can also be shut down by Primordial Sea, but nothing shuts down Delta Stream except for Mega Rayquaza being swapped out or knocked out. Looking at the results for 2016, we can see that Kyogre got 1st in the Junior, Senior, and Masters division, all of which are sorted by age. For those of you who are relatively experienced in VGC, this was the year that Wolfie won Worlds with his team of Kyogre, Rayquaza, Mega Gengar, Hitmontop, Raichu, and Bronzong.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
He was able to bring Mega Gengar because the Mega Legends didn't count as full-fledged Megas, since Groudon and Kyogre both required an item, being the Red Orb and Blue Orb, while Rayquaza just needed to use its signature move of Dragon Ascent. And for Kyogre and Groudon, they didn't need to have the Mega Evolution button clicked, it just happened when they were summoned onto the field, while Mega Gengar actually needed a separate button to be clicked, which had it marked as a full-fledged Mega Evolution. Raichu was able to Volt Absorb the electric type moves away that threatened Kyogre Kyogre, like a piece of garlic bread soaks up spaghetti sauce, and Gengar took care of grass types by resisting any and all grass type moves. The way Wolfie got around Desolate Land was by having skill swap on Bronzong, which not only would reset the weather to heavy rain, but would also give Kyogre Levitate, making it immune to ground type moves like Groudon's Precipice Blades, even if Bronzong were to die. Even better if it does the same turn, because then you can bring in Mega Gengar, assuming that it's already Mega Evolved, because then you can Shadow Tag them, which prevents your opponent from pivoting away Groudon and resetting up their sun. In 2019, Kyogre took up 5 of the top 8 slots at Worlds at 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. The highest ranking team at 3rd was James Beck with the team of Kyogre, Xerneas, Incineroar, Kartana, Amoonguss, and Tornadus. Xerneas being there for Geomancy setups, which was Xerneas' signature move that gave it +2 to its special attack, special defense, and speed like a god tier Quiver Dance. But it does need a turn to charge unless you're using Power Herb, which majority of people were. And Kartana is also a great addition, with Beast Boost giving it +1 to its physical attack every time it picks up a KO, and the rain only makes it 2 times weak to fire instead of 4, which is like using a piece of paper that's actively on fire to write on, instead of one that's already burnt. Getting over Mega Evolutions being gone and borderline skipping over Z moves, we are looking at the era of Dynamax. In 2022, Dynamax would double the Pokemon's HP and give them Max moves like Max Geyser, which sets up Rain, Max Lightning, which sets up Electric Terrain, Max Wyrmwind, which drops your opponent's attack, and Max Darkness, which drops your opponent's special defense. In this year, we also got to see the resurgence of Kyogre's Great King James Beck, who was using the Swordfish combination of Zacian, Kyogre, Incineroar, Rillaboom, Indeedee, and Tornadus. This was a really rough era for Kyogre due to the fact that any Pokemon could set up any weather whenever the player needed it to with Dynamax moves like Max Geyser, Max Flare, Max Hailstorm, and Max Rockfall. That, and there was also the introduction of what I think to be potentially one of Kyogre's greatest allies now, worst enemies then, Regieleki. Regieleki is the fastest Pokemon ever made at the time of writing this when looking purely at base stats. It also has a pretty solid special attack stat and the ability called Transistor, which gives it a 30% boost to its offensive stats when using an electric type move, which luckily for this bouncing bubble of electric joy, it pretty much only knows. This paired with the base power 150 max lightning in electric terrain was devastating. Like dropping your ice cream cone when you just got it and it was $100. And you got struck by lightning, and you crapped yourself, and your crush watched all of it, and is now laughing at you. Things continue to go downhill for a big blue beautiful breathing boy, with the popularity of Gastrodon, who has the ability Storm Drain, which redirects all non-spread water type moves to it and turns it into a +1 special attack boost. Which cancels out the Max Geyser, by the way. It doesn't even deal any damage. Even with all of these challenges, Kyogre got 3rd place at Worlds. Way to go, fella. Saying goodbye to Dynamax just as fast as we said hello, we are now introduced to Terastallization, which allows you to turn your Pokemon defensively into 1 type and offensively into 2 or 3 depending on if they had 2 to begin with or not. To make it a bit simpler, let's say you take this Pikachu here. Defensively and offensively, it is just an electric type. But if we were to have it be Terra Flying, it would now have the weaknesses and resistances of a flying type, and now have the stab of both electric and flying. Good luck getting that thing to fly, though. Locking back in, the highest ranking Kyogre team was by Oliver Escalin at 14th place. What beat it? What in the 7 rings of hell is a Terrapagos? Yeah, it wasn't a great Worlds for Kyogre fans all around the world, as this was the lowest that Kyogre was placed, with it being its highest ranking. In all of the years that Kyogre has been legal, it has placed top 4 at Worlds since its existence, due to the raw power you will get with weather control. Let that sink in. Always top 4 till now. So what happened? Did no one really bring it? Did everyone bring electric types? Was everyone running sun? Well, kind of. Pokemon like Miraidon, Iron Hands, Ogerpon, and Raging Bolt started existing, and they were perfect coverage for the poor mammal. And on the other side of the Pokeball, there were Pokemon like Dondozo and Rillaboom who just resisted Kyogre's stab water moves. At this time, people still mostly believed that Terra Water was the best due to it making Origin Pulse and Water Spout even stronger. Water Spout being a move that deals more damage the more HP you have, and Origin Pulse being Kyogre's signature move that it's had since forever, which is a very powerful spread water move with only 85% accuracy, meaning there's an 85% chance that you hit one target and a 72.25% chance that you hit both targets. Then, since they were choice scarfed, they were locked into the water type moves that they already selected, and they couldn't swap to other moves like Thunder or Ice Beam when necessary. Meaning they either had to use a not very effective move, or pivot and have something else tank damage in order to use a move to only knock out one Pokemon. Lastly, people just didn't really think Kyogre could do it, so they didn't really bring him. Back in 2010 and 2016, people didn't have that many options, and a swimming tank that brought their own weather with them was a dream come true. But due to power creep, we have more restricteds that can just do more. Miraidon and Koraidon not only bring their own field effect, but also come with stat boost when set effect is up. They also have moves that let them pivot in and out of situations that get kinda sticky while still dealing damage in turn, with U-turn and Volt Switch. While both Calyrex forms have spread moves that are 100% accurate that aren't HP based. They also have abilities that boost their main attacking stat after each KO. To make it even worse, it's not just restricteds. Weezing gets rid of abilities with neutralizing gas, so you can't set up rain. Dondozo and Tatsugiri are borderline restricteds in themselves, because Dondozo gets +2 to every stat, and even once you knock that out, you still have to deal with the Tatsugiri. Urshifu can hit through Protect, and Paradox Mons, when paired with their correct restricted, get their own stat boost, thanks to their ability of Photosynthesis and Quark Drive. James Beck still didn't drop Kyogre using a team that consisted of Rillaboom, Electabuzz, Annihilate, Tornadus, Kyogre, and Sarina, but he ended up going 1-3. The player that I brought up previously, Oliver Escalin, had a team of Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Kyogre, Rorymoon, Rillaboom, Amoonguss, and Incineroar, and he still ended up going 10-3, which isn't too bad, but it just simply wasn't what Kyogre was used to. It wasn't top 4. And here we jump forward to now, and as Regulation I reaches the midpoint of its existence, we now have a better idea of what the meta is, with there essentially being two options. Calyrex Shadow and Friends versus Miraidon and Friends. The meta list shows Incineroar at 47.22% usage, Urshifu Rapid Strike at 38.33%, Miraidon at 35.37%, Calyrex Shadow Rider at 34.33%, Rillaboom at 30.77%, Calyrex Ice at 28.27%, Grimmsnarl at 24.44%, Zamazenta Crowned at 23.51%, Raging Bolt at 19.04%, and Amoonguss at 18.67%. Wow, that is a lot of numbers. Looking at NAIC, we see that Kyogre got 21st place on Nick Navarro's team of Kyogre, Basculegion, Fluttermane, Amoonguss, Calyrex Ice Rider, and Iron Jungulus. This team adopted the more bulky Terragrass Mystic Water set that is more commonly used today. Even then, Kyogre would have had its new lowest highest Worlds rating if this were the World Championships. But it wasn't. And congrats to everybody who was listed in this video, by the way. This is not meant to demean anyone's score or placing. It is just simply a conversation about how Kyogre is performing in the meta. With that said, using what we know and all the data provided by both Munchstats and PKlytics, not sponsored sadly, we can bring this big blue creature back to its former glory. For starters, we're gonna need to build the man of the hour, Kyogre.
You do the thing, and you do it right, and you don't fuck it up, it works. It just works.
Now, I've noticed that most restricted attackers people are bringing are special attackers. So rather than invest enough EV points into its special defense that it's basically wearing a tinfoil hat and saying the moon landing was fake, I decided to give it an Assault Vest, which is an item that adds 50% to your Pokemon's special defense, but you're not allowed to use any moves that don't deal direct damage. This is not really a problem for Kyogre because it primarily used attacking moves unless you were running a Calm Mind Protect set with leftovers. This also allows us to put EVs and other stats later on. To add moves that benefit from the rain that we set up, we're going to go with the basic Water Spout and Origin Pulse, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The other two move slots are going to be Ice Beam to take care of grass types like Amoonguss and Rillaboom, and Thunder to take care of Urshifu, Rapid Strike, and Tornadus. We also have the plus side of Thunder not missing in rain, which this team is definitely not lacking in. This paired with Terra Grass, which is perfect because now Kyogre can resist electric and grass. It's only 2 weaknesses. It also prevents Kyogre from being put to sleep with Spore. This Kyogre is a beast, and when paired with its bestie, it becomes the girly pop duo of doom, that being Miraidon. Miraidon has the ability Hydron Engine, which sets up electric terrain the moment it hits the field, and it gets a 30% boost to its special attack, which is busted. We are going to go with the item of Choice Specs, which gives us an additional 50% boost in our special attack, but it can only use the first move it executes. I went with the moveset of Draco Meteor for high impact dragon damage, Volt Switch for pivots, Electro Drift, which is Miraidon's signature move that adds 33% when super effective, and Dazzling Gleam, which is a fairy-type spread move to deal with Pokemon like Iron Hands and other Miraidon. In addition, with our fairy-type move, we are also going to have Terra Fairy, which gives us stab on Dazzling Gleam and makes us immune to dragon-type attacks and no longer weak to ground. Since Kyogre's speed is so versatile, we are allowed to run duo speed with Trick Room and Tailwind, just like we've seen before. Starting with the Tailwind half of this team, we are going to use Tornadus. Little fun fact about me, since we've been able to use it, I have had Tornadus on all of my final teams, and with the same set too, and so we're going to use it again, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Starting off, we are going to give it a Covert Cloak, which allows us to prevent the secondary effect of moves, so no special attack drop from Snarl, and no flinch from Fake Out. It also has the ability Prankster, which gives us +1 priority to non-attacking moves, which, lucky for us, Tornadus is chock full of, with Tailwind to double our speed for 4 turns, Rain Dance to reset up the rain without needing to swap out, and Taunt to prevent other Pokemon from using non-attacking moves, like their own Tailwind, Trick Room, or Thunder Wave. Lastly, we're going to give it Bleakwind Storm, which is Tornadus' signature move, which is like the spread version of Hurricane, but instead of a chance to confuse, it has a 30% chance to drop the opponent's speed by 1. Then we have Terra Dark, so it can be immune to Prankster moves like Taunt or Thunder Wave from Whimsicott and Grimmsnarl. To take advantage of the Tailwind as opposed to the Trick Room, we are going to have Urshifu Rapid Strike, holding a Mystic Water, which adds 20% to Urshifu's water-type attacks, of which we will have 2. One being Surging Strikes, which is his signature move, which hits 3 times at base power 25 and 100% accuracy, and always crits on all 3 hits. This effectively is a base power 75 move that always crits, but a bit scarier since you have to take in consideration the roll rate of moves, which could be the difference between a 75% damage dealt and an OHKO. It also can one-shot Pokemon like Ogerpon Cornerstone because it can ignore Sturdy, hitting 3 separate times. The other move is Aqua Jet, which is a base power 40 priority move, which is always useful unless Psychic Terrain is up. To make Urshifu even scarier, its ability allows it to hit through Protect, that being Unseen Fist, like a bully that waits for you to flinch only to punch you in the face and pants you. The final 2 moves are Detect, which is just Protect, but it can't be shut out by Imprison. Take that, Indeedee. And Close Combat, because it's a good fighting type move, and even if it drops my defenses, it won't really matter because of how frail he is compared to how strong the special attackers are. We are going to use Terra Water so we can have even more damage added to our beast of a move that is Surging Strikes. Next, we are going to have a Trick Room mode, meaning that we need a Trick Room setter, which for us is Farigiraf, aka Wolfie's Pokemon, because there's no other Pokemon that has that title. None at all. The ability we're going with is Armor Tail, which shuts down priority moves attacking my team. Whether it's an attack or not, it will be blocked like your ex should be. I see you, block him. With the item of Electric Seed, which gives Farigiraf +1 to its defense in the stat department, and not only when Electric Terrain is up. We're going with the moveset of Trick Room, which reverses the speed order, making the slowest Pokemon now the fastest. Hyper Voice, which is a spread damage normal move. Psychic Noise, which is a psychic type move that prevents the target from healing at all unless they pivot or if 2 turns have passed. And Protect. We are going to need to go with Terra Fairy to resist dark type moves, and Farigiraf is all set. Lastly, we need another Pokemon that can be in Trick Room, and we are going to bring Ursaluna for that. Now, Ursaluna is a normal type with the ability Guts, which adds 50% to Ursaluna's attack when statused, so we're going to give it a Flame Orb, which will burn Ursaluna after its first turn of being on the field. The reason why I specify that Ursaluna is normal type instead of just normal ground is because it also learns the move Facade, which is a normal type move at the base power of 70 that doubles when statused with something like a burn. And since Ursaluna is a normal type, on top of being 140 base power, it's also Stab, which is an additional 50%, making it a base power 210 move, all before factoring in its potential 316 attack stat, assuming that it's max attack adamant nature. We're going to add Protect to give Ursaluna a turn to be burned, Drain Punch to get it its HP back, and Crunch as a clean way to take care of Calyrex Shadow, which up to this point was our biggest weakness. And with that, the team is all set out. Now we can get to the stats. These were recorded on Showdown, so take these with a grain of salt. Okay, besties? Starting from base 1000 ELO, we won our first 7 games in a row clean wins. Our first loss was against Zamazenta, Calyrex Shadow, Raichu, Incineroar, Urshifu, and Amoonguss. The Raichu caused a lot of problems, which dropped me from 1220 to 1196, which sucked, but I was able to pick myself up after winning 2 in a row against another Wheezing Ability Shield team, and a hard Trick Room team with a Sun side with Hisuian Typhlosion. At 9-1, that is a phenomenal record, but I wanted to see how many more I could do. I was able to beat a Lunala Miraidon team that had a Healing Comfey and Aurora Veil Alolan Ninetales, a Swordfish team of Zashi and Kyogre that also had a Booster Energy Iron Leaves, which actually caused some problems, and a Calyrex Shadow and Miraidon team that had a Final Gambit Annihilape, Overquill paired with Pelipper, and Mudsdale for some reason, which would be stellar results at a physical in-person tournament. But after that, we got another loss, this time against a Calyrex Shadow Terrapagos team with Ogerpon Cornerstone, Amoonguss, Rillaboom, and Incineroar. We ended up not being able to get past the Terrapagos because the Terra Water ended up biting me, with Urshifu being OHKO'd in all 3 of the battles in our best 2 out of 3, which ended up being an ELO of 1303 from a clean 1000. Losing mostly to Incineroar, Calyrex Shadow, and Amoonguss 2 times, and getting 1 loss to Rillaboom, Ogerpon Cornerstone, Terrapagos, Zamazenta, Urshifu, and Raichu. Passing a mix of strange and meta teams, all of which were actually very strong and not just thrown together for funsies, and you could tell that they were intricately designed with a plan and purpose in mind. Now, we can get to the numbers. No, not like that. I don't want to get sued. My best leads were Tornadus Miraidon, which I used a whopping 13 times, because yes, I ended up using this team past the ones listed for the video. It's a very fun team, and I use all of my teams that I build just whenever I feel like it. And I have a 84.6% win rate. Farigiraf and Miraidon were used 2 times with 100%, and Kyogre Tornadus was also used 2 times with 100% win rate. Tornadus Urshifu was used 3 times with a 33% win rate, and Farigiraf Ursaluna was used 2 times with a 0% win rate. Following only the battles listed, my lost battles were leads of Farigiraf Ursaluna against the Raichu Zamazenta, and Urshifu Torn versus Amoonguss and Ogerpon Cornerstone. Most of my battles I led Miraidon Tornadus because that allowed for the most versatility and flexibility. I could stay in with Bleak Wind Storm and Dazzling Gleam or Draco Meteor, or I could Tailwind Volt Switch, or I could have Volt Switch Bleak Wind Storm with a pivot being Kyogre, so that way it has no chance of missing. With the total rate being 12-2 or 85.71%, the best performing Pokemon against this team are Screamtail, Terrapagos, and surprisingly Giratina Origin, all with 100% win rate in 2 battles. Urshifu at 50% after 10 battles, and Tinglu, Farigiraf, Volcarona, Brute Bonnet, Landorus, and Iron Valiant all at 50% 50% in 2 battles. This team swept through Solgaleo, Galarian Moltres, Chi-Yu, Ursaluna, Lugia, Fluttermane, and Raging Bolt all at 0 wins, even after the vast amounts of post-record battles. Koraidon after 7 is at 14.3, Lunala after 6 is 16.7, Whimsicott after 4 is 25, Miraidon and Calyrex Shadow after 10 are at 30%, Incineroar after 13 is 30.8, and lastly, Grimmsnarl, Iron Hands, and Ogerpon Hearthflame after 3 each were at 33%. After all the battles post-record, my worst losing streak was 4 battles in a row, with my best being 7, or the other 5 in a row I got after the 5-win streak from the main count. My peak was 1349 ELO, and my valley was 1196, so this begs the question, with Worlds only a month away, could Kyogre realistically win its 3rd World Championship? With how prevalent Miraidon is, I think it would have to be with the power of Miraidon and friends. I've also tested out Lustrous Orb Palkia, Adamant Crystal Origin Dialga, Zamazensa Crowned, Zacian Crowned, and even Weakness Policy Solgaleo, and no other 2 meshed as well as Miraidon and Kyogre. So rather than being Kyogre's worst enemy like Regieleki was, I think they rely on each other because the rain weakens Koraidon and can even scare away Groudon and other ground types, while the electric terrain boosts the power of Kyogre's thunder. The only thing is you need to make sure you have the ability to access all of Kyogre's moves, because if you're locked into Origin Pulse against an Amoonguss or Rillaboom, you're screwed. So the answer is more than likely, yeah, it's possible. But what is guaranteed is that eventually Kyogre will find its time to shine again due to the sheer amount of pressure it puts against your opponent. But what do you think? Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. There's some kind of bug happening on my YouTube page where I can't add links to my description, but if it still isn't working, you can find me at my Twitter, at pinkbears07, alongside my Instagram and TikTok of the same name. By the way, I have a Discord now too. That is going to be linked in a comment because I think it will work there. I'm not certain. I also have a Fiverr if you'd like a commission, or maybe even just like a fun little doodle. All that alongside supporting the channel all around, but if you can't support the channel in that way, you will help a lot more by liking, subscribing, and commenting. That's gonna be all for today. I've been pinkbears07, and I will see you, hopefully at Anime Fusion, and if not, somewhere sometime. Peace.